appreciate your coming. Thank you. My name is Lanny Goodman. My company is Management Technologies, based here in Albuquerque. And what I do for a living is help entrepreneurs who historically have worked for their companies figure out how to get their companies to work for them. What I also do, which we'll be talking mostly about today, is spent the last 15 years or so figuring out how can we apply the principles of complexity theory to build companies that are basically self-managing. And so I think what you're going to discover today as we dig into these principles that virtually everything we know about management that we've all grown up with and have learned from time we started our careers, basically obsolete. We know from the very earliest research that was done back in the 30s that traditional management practice is fundamentally paternalistic and dehumanizing. But the productivity gains were so great from the people who invented management that this was deemed an acceptable cost. But in this day and age, with when the best people are scarce and expensive, it's not good enough anymore. How do we draw out of our organizations the total talent and intelligence, the creativity, the knowledge and experience and energy and enthusiasm of our people? That is sort of the core work here. And traditional management practice does not do that. It is the antithesis of that. Ultimately, what we really want to do is, in our organizations, build a team that can stand on the shoulders of the leaders and dream even bigger dreams than they did. I mean, in the final analysis, no matter how brilliant we are, no matter how capable we are, you get a group of people together who have the benefit of where you've taken them to. They can stand on your shoulders and still see even farther and do things that you can't even imagine. We are human beings. We hunger for meaning. We hunger for purpose. We hunger for doing something that matters, and it's going to have an impact in life. Being treated like a cog is the antithesis of how we want to live. And you know what? We have options today. The good news is this: nature is showing us a better way. The evolution of this, as you think about that Newtonian worldview, cosmology, at the early part of the 20th century, quantum theory showed up, blew that model apart. It wasn't that Newton was wrong, he just wasn't complete. It wasn't totally accurate. Chaos theory about 30 years ago showed up, which was a study of large complex systems. And traditional scientific study, of course, is very reductionistic. How do we break things down to its smallest component? So imagine trying to model what happens in Niagara Falls by tracking every molecule of water through that system. Can't get there from here. So what chaos theorists found is that for large systems, there are a few simple rules that they tend to follow. And out of chaos theory evolved what's really germane to our conversation today, which is complexity theory. And what complexity theory teaches us, and this is something that should ring our bells as managers, is that intrinsic to all systems is the natural propensity to self-organize. Intrinsic to all systems is the natural propensity to self-organize. That should start us asking the question, if that is how the universe works, why is it that human beings require armies of managers to get the simplest thing done? In 1776, Adam Smith, who wrote the Wealth of Nations, coined this wonderful phrase that he called the invisible hand. That basically somehow millions of people pursuing their own self-interest cause the right stuff to show up at the right place at the right time at the right price. Completely astonishing that this happens and that this works. A biologist would call this emergent behavior. Behavior that just shows up. It's hardwired into reality. The emerging model here is not the machine model. The emerging model is more like biology, where the organization really looks more like an organism, where the intelligence is decentralized. I mean, think about this. When you woke up this morning, your pancreas did not say, you know what, I'm going to call in sick today. I really got some other things I want to go do. Because if it did, what happens? You're dead. End of story. Okay? That's not how biology works. When you cut your finger, the entire organism rises to your defense. Every cell in your body is aware of what's going on in every other cell around it. Our bodies are flooded with information, neurotransmitters, hormones, enzymes, that is informing every part of the body of what's going on everywhere else. That's self-organizing behavior. Now, do our organizations look like that? So if we were to apply that notion of health to our organizational reality, Would we call 911? Probably so. How much direct control do you have over the behavior of the people who you're responsible for? Not very much. And even think about it. What are the tools you have to work with from a psychological standpoint? You got the carrot and you got the stick. These are pretty crude tools. So if we, on the other hand, say, well, wait a minute, if we put our attention on the system, how much control do you have over that? Virtually complete. Where's the leverage here? Leverage means we do little work, we get big result. That's what leverage means. Is that making sense? Why do we bonus our employees when things are good and then protect them from the consequences of their actions when things are not? This is how you treat children. It's not how you treat adults. The hard reality is, and one of life's many ironies, human beings only change when the pain of sitting still exceeds the pain of stepping into the unknown. So it is, if the feedback mechanism isn't there to say this isn't working, how are people going to change? How will they even know to change? In times such as these, it is no failure to fall short of realizing all that we might dream. The failure is to fall short of dreaming all that we might realize. So again, I would encourage you, question everything. The assumptions, the vision that we sort of laid out about what's possible. You know, Napoleon Hill said many, many years ago, anything, and pardon the gender specificity here, but anything the mind of man can conceive and believe he can achieve. And so if we can see that possibility, then shame on us for not doing it. The time is right. When systems are in flux, we have the opportunity to drive change through our organizations, which are much more difficult when things are stable. Now is the time. The need is pressing. We need to build organizations that are self-managing, in which people feel like they're treated like adults. They are humane workplaces where we really are leveraging the full capability that people can bring to the party.